What's up, knife freaks, sharpness geeks, and purveyors of stabby goodness? Welcome to the Knife Freak Show. My name is Jonathan McNees, joined by my co-host, Mr. Chase Boatright.
Greetings. How you been?
How are you today?
I'm
Tired.
good. It's nice and rainy and wet and getting cold. And as you know, I am not a fan of the cold. I am already over it. I would like it to go back to being warm now.
Yeah.
I prefer 90-degree days to 70-degree days every time. So that's just me.
Yeah.
But anyway, how are you?
I'm good. I'm actually, it is a little damp and cold too, but I'm definitely enjoying the cooler weather. That's more my speed, so it's nice to see. But
Yeah, no.
means hunting season's right around the corner.
Yeah, well, that's true. First day I could see my breath, I was already done with it. It's not my jam, but
Yeah.
it's been a while since we've been.
Amy and I just.
What?
I was just going to say, Amy and I just had basically the same discussion. She's been talking about couldn't wait to get rid of the hot weather, and then it's cold. She's like, I wanted some in between. I didn't want to go from one extreme to the other, but it seems like that's what it does, or at least it feels extreme, I think, to us. So
yeah, it definitely does. But I was about to say it's been a while since we've actually recorded. I think it's been 3 weeks, something like that, because you've been out and about here lately.
Yeah, we have been nonstop. So yeah, we recorded 2 episodes before we left for Salt Lake City, and so we didn't miss putting a podcast out for all those weeks, but we haven't. This would be like I think 3 weeks, like you said, since we recorded. So yeah, a lot been going on. So I guess we can dive into a little bit of that. Huh?
Yeah, tell us how it went.
Yeah. So Salt Lake City Blade Show West, it was really good. I think it's the smallest. I don't know what the actual numbers are, but from our perspective, I'm pretty sure it's the smallest of the 3 Blade shows. So I'm sure it's Atlanta, and then Texas, and then Utah. So it was cool. There was some good stuff about it being smaller, which is the fact that we kind of get to a certain extent, get to network and socialize a little bit more. But we were pretty slammed the first day and a half. We kind of cleared everything out there fairly early on Saturday, and then spent the rest of the day kind of networking and stuff. So yeah, it was cool. There was a lot of good traffic. I think more traffic than last year. I think we probably did more actual sales than we did last year, and everybody there is super nice. Like, I really like the people there are all friendly, and of course not everybody's from there, but you get a lot of local or local-ish people there, and everybody's super nice and friendly and all that. So yeah, we had a really good time. Got to hang out with some of our friends, like I said, socialize and network a little bit. So getting some stuff lined up for some possible collaborations and stuff like that. So pretty exciting.
Awesome. Yeah. Glad to hear. I mean, that's what I've heard from that show, is that it's growing, and it every year seems to sort of build upon the last and keep growing and keep going in the right direction, which is good. I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah, I think Blade Show's doing a good job. Alicia and those guys are doing a really good job of kind of growing all the Blade shows and really putting a lot of effort into it. So it was pretty cool. So a lot of you probably saw there was a Lambo in the building, so that was kind of neat. The owner of Blade HQ I think he had bought it like just within the last few days. I think they said they bought it like that week or something, and had it wrapped in their Desert Warrior theme, and had it parked inside the room there, inside the hall. So it was walked in, and there was a Desert Warrior Lambo sitting there. That was different.
I missed all of that. I did not see that. I was unaware that there was a
really
pink and sprinkled Lamborghini out there.
Yep, there was. I took a video of it. I don't think I took an actual picture. I've got a video clip. I think I posted it like in my story while we were there or whatever. But yeah, I'll have to send it to you. It was pretty interesting. pretty cool.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
I,
That's I mean,
I
I appreciate the cheekiness in some ways of the dessert warrior line.
yeah,
The whole thing came about apparently
the,
because of a typo in an email where someone was trying to type desert warrior and they put two S's, so it became dessert warrior.
well,
And
the story the guys from Blade HQ told us was that it was a, not to contradict you, but they said that it was a uh, April Fool's post, and that
hmm,
everybody like was serious about actually wanting it, and so they decided to start doing it. So
yeah,
I don't know,
maybe the
kind of
original idea
similar
for the
stories, but
post came from because I don't know, I don't remember where I heard the story, but I heard like they were emailing back and forth. Someone was
mm-hmm.
talking within the company and accidentally put two S's, and I don't
Yeah,
know, that may have
that's
been what
probably, then
might
they
have
probably made it into a, yeah,
a junk
yeah, it
post.
may have
Yeah,
been internal, and then they made it into a post, an April Fool's post, and so yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty hilarious. But I said, that's, while I know that's not my cup of tea, but like he probably like those Dessert Warrior knives, all the different stuff that they've done have probably already paid for that Lambo and then some. So I
probably
mean,
so. Yeah, I mean
probably
they're very
appropriate that
very
he put
popular,
that
very
on the.
collectible. I mean, people go crazy for them, and hey, all the power to them.
Yep,
Like what you like, and
yep,
it's all good. But you were
yep.
also
So hey, yeah.
what?
Now, just if it works, it's making you money and not hurting anybody, it's just fun, then do it to it.
Yeah, for sure. Uh, I was gonna say after y'all got home from Blade Show West, or was there anything else you wanted to add about Blade Show West? Or
No, that was pretty much it. Like I said, it was pretty standard show. Good, like I said, growing. Um, Overall, it was a pretty good experience. So,
good.
um,
Well,
yeah,
after
no
y'all
real no complaints or anything.
yeah, after y'all got home, you got to spend a few days back in Alabama, and then got to hit the road once again and head up to Smoky Mountain Knife Works and do their, what was the official title of the event again?
Is Fall Fest.
Fall Fest. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
and got to
yeah.
work behind the counter a little bit. I saw.
Yeah, so they actually had us. So we were home. We got home. We flew home on Sunday from Utah, and didn't get home until late that night. And we headed out driving Thursday morning, kind of early, headed for Smoky Mountain. So we had very few days at home before we turned around and headed out, and got up there, and they had. I didn't know what to expect because we'd never done it before, but they actually had. So they had some reps there that were just kind of working behind the counter at some of the displays, and then they had some of us out at actual tables set up like in the aisles and stuff, through the store. And so that's where we were set up, was in in an aisle, uh,
Gotcha.
and with some other guys. We were beside the Big Idea design guys, and Tactile Turn was right across from us, and Half Face Blades was over on the other side of us. So um, it was pretty cool. We got to talk to some friends and meet some new people and stuff, as far as like other people in the industry. But then lots of people came through that we got to talk to and have discussions with uh, during the event. So it was different because it wasn't technically a show for us. Like we didn't take our own product to take and sell.
Yeah.
It was product. We actually did take some product that it was like a last minute stuff um, that we were taking to them. Uh, but it was all their stock, stuff that they bought from us, that we're basically just kind of standing there selling it, talking to people, representing. So,
Yeah.
which was kind of cool in a lot of ways, because it was like, obviously I want their stuff to sell good too, but at the same time, like, there was kind of not a lot of pressure. It was like, you know, I'm not over there counting the sales, because I got to figure out how
Yeah.
much money we made or didn't make. So it
Yeah.
was
It takes
kind
a
of
little bit
nice
of
in
the
a
edge
way
off. I
too.
mean,
So
like you said, it is in your benefit. It is in your best interest to, make those knives sell. They have your name on them. And, of course, you always want,
that's right.
dealers to sell well. So, that cycle continues and all that. But, I can
Yep.
definitely see how that would kind of just ever so slightly knock the edges a little bit and, just make it more
Yeah.
fun, especially being, out there. I can't imagine how many people walk through that door every day and, just getting to talk knives. So, Sounds fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cool. And it was busy. Like we were surprised. We got there the first day. We were running a little bit late. We didn't expect how much traffic there was going to be up there either. Like, I mean, it's normally when we're up there, we go up to that area a lot, but it's usually around like Christmas or typically more like around New Year. So we kind of know what to expect then. And for some reason, we weren't really quite expecting it to be quite as crowded as it was this past weekend and week. So, but yeah, it was we underestimated the traffic a little bit. We weren't technically late the first day, but we didn't get there till kind of the last minute. And the parking lot was already completely full. They got like an overflow parking lot in the back, so the main parking lot was completely full. There was a line all the way out the door, probably I don't know, probably 50 yards out the door or something like that. Well, maybe not quite that far, 30, 40 yards at least.
Wow.
It was, yeah. I mean, it was a big turnout. So they had a bunch of stuff outside too. They had they had some knife stuff outside. It was like some they were doing some forging uh, um, exhibits or whatever, like exhibition stuff where you could watch them forge. And they had some of the guys that were, I think some of them maybe were participating in that or whatever, that were like the smiths kind of makers or whatever, were kind of set up out there close to the forging area. And then there was some other, they had some of their stuff set up outside, like under a big tent with like clothes and toys and everything under the sun, and several food trucks, which had some pretty daggum good food. I ain't gonna lie. And a couple of sunglasses reps. Trying to think what all was that was most of what was out there. They had some games for the kids. Some like I think they had actual axe throwing, but then they had like a Velcro axe throwing like inflatable thing or whatever for the kids. So anyway, it was really cool. It was kind of something for everybody. So and tons of people came through and talked to us. And another thing that I really liked about it, we didn't get to talk to a ton of them, but they had so they had like an employee that was kind of assigned to our area as like a runner. Because if you've never been there, typically if you buy something from that's behind the counter or in one of the displays at Smoky Mountain Knife Works, they always ask you which door you came in, because there's registers. There's several different ways in there, and there's registers at all the doors. And basically, they take the product up there to the register and have it up there waiting on you. Where I think, if I remember right, they give you a ticket, I think. So they had that kind of set up with where we had an employee there that was kind of like the runner for our area, but he also was somebody that I think works the counter where our stuff is on a normal basis. And so we were able to talk to him some, do some kind of education on some of the products and stuff, which, the more educated their salespeople are, the better, so that was pretty cool. I was glad to get to do that.
Awesome. Yeah. Is this a yearly event, the Fall Fest that they do?
It is. Yep,
Okay.
it is. First, like I said, first time we've ever made it, but last year it fell on the same weekend as the Blade Show West.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think we're having some lag here, so y'all forgive us if we're kind of talking over each other a little bit. We're trying not to, but I think we're having some technical difficulties
as usual.
Yeah, seems. Of course, it's raining today, and with us, we're on what you call it, Elon's deal, satellite Starlink. That's it. Mind blanked out there for a minute. Been doing that a lot with all the running and going we've been doing. But anyway, so yeah, it was I think they're going to try in the future. It's not necessarily on a set weekend. Because they didn't know yet when they were going to do it next year. I think they're going to try to avoid Blade Show West from now on, and then we'll just have to see when it falls next year. I'm sure somewhere within the couple of week time frame there, most likely. But
yeah, I mean, this is a very popular time of year for all sorts of fall festival type stuff. I mean, we went to one Saturday for the next town over, and the Saturday before that was the one for our town, and it's hard to schedule stuff this time of year. So but awesome.
It is.
Glad y'all been bouncing forth across the country and having fun and selling knives and doing that thing.
Yeah, it's been travel is always a little exhausting, but it's been good, and I definitely have to say that it's up until recently, traveling and doing any kind of traveling, going to shows or whatever was always a little more stressful for me because the shop is still here and hopefully running and hopefully running smooth, and that hasn't always been the case in the past, that it's been running smooth or whatever. So, and I'd be kind of, you know, one part of my brain thinking about what we're doing at the show and stuff, and the other back of my mind wondering, you know, how things are going at the shop and worrying about what kind of productivity we're going to get and that kind of stuff. But the guys really have done a really good job with us being gone so much and like stepped up, and they really kind of hitting a good stride. So really proud of them for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is good. Meanwhile, while you were bouncing across the country, I was back here making knives. So, you know, 'cause I don't want to
Yeah,
get
I've
to.
been seeing you post and stuff. I believe you just did an auction. Is the auction over? I didn't see
Yep.
the finale.
Yep.
Okay, I assumed it was, but that was a good looking knife.
Thank you. Yeah, that was first auction I've ever done, and I was very very happy with the result. I mean, I could not have asked for a better you know turnout and all the bids and stuff and how high it went. For those that
Yeah.
didn't see it, it was a Damascus steel bladed Evoc, my Evoc model, which is sort of a sheep's foot Warncliffe blade, had black Damascus bolsters and carbon fiber scales behind those. It originally had ivory linen micarta back behind the uh, Damascus because I had a dealer, mutual dealer friend of ours, suggest that to me at one point to use that combination of Damascus and that sort of ivory linen color. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a good combination when you can pull it off, but I could not keep that stuff clean to save my life. Uh,
Yeah, it's
because
tough.
it's just yeah, with that, especially with the black Damascus too, with it having the zert right next to it and
Mm.
trying to shape all that and keep all that clean and trying to yeah, just everything about it. So I ended up having
Yeah,
to go to the carbon fiber, and I still think it looks good. And that was the first time I've used
it did.
a floating backspacer and done a lot of tried to push myself a little bit in a couple areas, and I think it turned out pretty good.
Yeah, it looked really good. I was definitely impressed. That's awesome. I'm glad the auction went well, and that's really cool.
Yeah, that's sort of a nerve wracking feeling, and I've heard other makers on other podcasts talk about it. Of and the makers that were talking have had knives go for way more than anything I've ever sold, but it's still a nerve wracking feeling when it starts going up to a certain price that's above and beyond like what you normally sell a knife for. It's sort of a strange feeling. I personally started going back and double checking everything I had done and like is
Yeah,
this knife good enough
makes you
for that
kind
price?
of doubt
So it's
yourself. Yeah,
do what?
yeah, it kind of makes you doubt yourself a little bit. You're like, oh crap,
Yeah,
is
100%.
this
Yeah, it
did I
just
really do a good enough job on this? Yeah,
yeah, for sure. I mean, it went for almost, I guess, almost double what a standard version of that knife would go for, and so that really makes you start questioning yourself and trying to hold your feet to the
sure.
fire, I guess, and which is not a bad thing, but it was definitely an interesting
Yeah,
experience for my first auction.
yeah, yeah. They've always kind of been a little nerve wracking for me too, and I've never been one that's had like super crazy, prices like some of the guys do or whatever. But I've had some decent ones in the past. But like it's always been nerve wracking to me. It's like plus you're usually if you're auctioning a knife, chances are you kind of going out on a limb. You're doing some different stuff that you think is going to look good. It's going to be like the right choice of materials and all that, and then hoping that somebody out there agrees with you enough to to be willing to shell out the kind of money that you need to get to make it worth doing it. So
Yeah, 100%. And it's I'm not normally a fancy material type of guy or type of maker either. Like I'm not in my personal carry knives or in what I normally make. I don't make that much quote unquote fancy uh knives. Like I don't use a ton of Damascus and stuff. So like it's you know you try to do the best you can as far as doing what you think looks good and retain some of your uh whatever that is, like the less is more concept, but while still using those sort of more eye-catching materials. And It's a
Yeah.
difficult balance to walk, but yeah, it was definitely
Yep.
fun.
Well, you did a good job
Especially
on it.
trying to figure out the whole floating backspacer thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll talk to you off air at some point about how you did it and see. It's probably different than the way I used to do them. I never was totally satisfied with how I did them. So,
Yeah.
hopefully
I
you
ended up
found a
getting
better
some really good
method.
advice from Lucas Gumbiner right towards the end, and made a quick order from McMaster Car, and had some help right towards the end, because I was
Good.
about to abandon the floating backspacer, and then ended up getting some clutch last minute advice from him. So that was good.
Good. Good.
Yeah,
Another one of those instances of the community being so awesome, and makers sharing between each other, companies sharing between each other, all that. Like it's unreal. I think most people out from other industries would be amazed at how awesome our community is with that.
yeah, yeah. It's really great. Like I don't even. I think we were just talking about it, and he was like, offered the advice up like out of the blue. Like I had no problem just offering it to me, and I mean,
Mm-hmm.
not that he would if I asked for him anyway. Like, he does a ton of stuff to help other makers and stuff. But yeah, that's really one of the best parts of our whole. I can't think of the word. I was going to say a different word, the community, but I can't think of it at the moment.
Industry.
That one, yeah, that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Could
uh,
not get there.
yeah. It is. Yeah, that's definitely one of the things that I enjoy the most about it. It's really, there's always exceptions, but for the most part, there's not a bunch of like infighting and like gatekeeping and that kind of stuff. It's typically pretty, hey, we're all doing stuff a little bit different anyway. Like we've all got our own little thing, and so here, have at it and do it, put your twist on it, and it's all good.
For sure. All right. Well, beyond that, what else you got going on in the shop right now, or what do you have going on in the shop?
Well,
That kind of hand.
we have got a lot. We've got the normal stuff. We've got Dixon's rolling pretty good. We're starting to get on a pretty good schedule, running the machines, keeping parts flowing. Kind of got figured out what we need to run on what days to keep everything flowing the way we want to. Got a couple other big things. We've had a guy. I don't know if I've mentioned this on the podcast yet. But he's been with us for 3-ish weeks, 3 maybe 4 weeks now. He's a part
At
time guy.
least
He's a high
4.
school. At least 4. Did I mention it already before on here? I can't
Uh,
remember.
no, but you had to. We had to stop recording at one point the last time we recorded, because he had a question,
But
and that's the only reason I remember. It was
yeah,
before the
yeah, yeah. So
before the
he's
break.
a high school. Yeah, he's a high school. I hesitate to call him a kid, but he's like 16, so that's fair to me for sure. He's a kid, but he's just lives right down the road, and he's helping us doing some part time stuff, mostly on the weekends because he's playing football right now, but their season's about to be over, so it's going to be a little some after school days too. But anyway, that's been helping a lot. He's like coming here and done a really good job. Like um, I've been pretty impressed with what he's been able to accomplish. So he's helping to run the machine that grinds blades, so we can get more blades ground on the weekend to maximize that, and then doing just normal processing work and stuff, the hand work on cleaning up handles and stuff in between running the machine. So that's helped a lot, and we're about to start. He'll be coming in this week for some afternoons for some training. I've got another gentleman that's going to be coming to work, do some Saturday and Sunday shifts, mostly running the machines, but also doing some processing work in between. Because I'm not really the type to hire somebody to start machines and then just sit there while they run for a couple of hours and then start them again. You know what I mean? Like they're going to have to be
Yeah,
working on something else in the meantime, besides just starting machines that are, if you got a machine that's, you're having to swap parts out every couple of minutes, that's a full time, that's all you can do. But most of
yeah,
our stuff is put it in and let it run for a minimum of an hour or two, and some of them it's 6 or 7 hours. So, but the main point of that is that that'll help. I've been trying to keep stuff running as much as I could on the weekends, but with me being gone and just it's starting to get to be a lot to try to handle 7 days a week, because we've already got Fridays that technically I kind of have to handle too, because we work the 4-10. So this will at least leave me kind of handling it on Friday, and then this guy can kind of handle it on Saturday and Sunday for the most part. I'll probably still come out here and run some stuff at night, at least part of the time, for a nighttime run. But anyway, all that equals us basically running the machines more, which means we can get more stuff done, get more product out the door. And then also we are, I'm just waiting to hear back from a couple of things, but we basically are about to have another machine coming in too. Not technically a new machine, new to us. I'm buying a used BF2 SS, just like the other ones we've got. So found a pretty good deal on a lightly used one. It's like a 2023 model, and it's only got like 1,100 hours on it. So, yeah, apparently came from a knife shop, but I asked this is from a resale place, that like buys and sells used equipment. But he told me the name of it, but it wasn't anybody I recognized. I'm thinking they must have been like an OEM shop or something, because I didn't recognize the name, but I also might just be that I don't know them. But anyway, so that hope probably if everything goes according to plan, we can get everybody lined up, because we got to get the riggers lined up to unload it, then work the shipping around that on what day they can be here, and then once they're here, then I got to get the electrician in here to hook it up, and then we got to have the Haas tech come in and do on a used machine. There's not a whole lot to it. They're basically just coming in, leveling it up, checking the electrical stuff, make sure it's hooked up right and all that. But anyway, so several steps of getting people in here and getting stuff lined up before we can actually turn it on and start using it. But I'm hoping within maybe 2 weeks.
Sweet. You seem to be getting pretty good at that whole dance of lining all those things up, and now that you've had to do it, this is your 5th machine?
Experience. Yeah. We'll see. Last time it went pretty well. I don't know how many times I can pull the whole, hey, can you hook me up with expediting it a little bit? I don't know how many of those favors I've got in my pocket, but we keep giving them business by all, the riggers and the electricians and all them by keeping on buying more stuff. So maybe they'll hook us up good and get on out here pretty quick. So, but and what that's going to do is, number one, it gives us a little bit of like leeway in case something happens, another machine goes down or something stupid. But also we're fixing to push really hard on fixed blades and some other stuff too. Stuff besides, let's just say this, stuff besides frame lock folders. So we're going to run more pry bars, probably going to put out at least one more variation of the pry bar. We got one that we technically have done, but we've done very, very few of them. Probably going to do maybe another variation of a pry bar. We're going to do fixed blades is going to be the primary push, and having that other machine is going to allow us to, because we're pushing it pretty tight to be able to squeeze much else in with the other machines and still run the number of Dixons at the moment, but just call it frame locks, because we're fixing to be running some other stuff along with the Dixons, kind of splitting it down the middle. So that should free us up, give us some machine time that we can devote to more fixed blades and stuff, and start to push those out and really ramp that up. So I've been talking about doing, I think for the last 2 years in a row, I've said, by the end of the year we're going to have a whole fixed blade line, and then it hadn't happened. So I'm hoping this time. I'm looking out my window here and I see my mini mill is smoking. That's probably not good. Smoking pretty bad. Yeah, let me pause. Joseph's out there, but let me go pause and just see. We can leave that part in. So yeah, we're really going to try to push into a pretty good lineup of fixed blades. We'll start out with a couple of different models. We've got 3 or 4 different models that we've already got blanks and stuff for, that we've just got to cycle through, getting them on the mill and then sending them out to heat treat, bringing them back, doing the blade grinds, getting handles on them, all that stuff. So it's, but yeah, I plan on this coming year for sure. I feel fairly confident that in 2026, before the end of the year, we'll have a pretty solid lineup of fixed blades. So I'm looking forward to that. That's something I've been wanting to do for a while. Just haven't been able to pull it off.
It's tough because you think, production fixed blades would be easy. I mean, in comparison to folders, yes, they technically probably are, but there's still a lot of factors to consider, especially like trying to make sheaths for all of those is a big sticking point usually for me, and trying to figure that out, and also trying to make everything run as smoothly as possible is not always the easiest thing, as we know. And
Right.
so, yeah,
Yep.
definitely looking forward to seeing more fixed blades come out from you, though.
Yeah, I'm excited about it because just like most people, of course, I cut my teeth on fixed blades, so that was a big part of my journey, especially in the beginning. So I'm excited to be able to get back to it, and plus I just really like fixed blades, so
Yeah,
I enjoy them. So I'm looking forward to that. Yep.
sweet. Well, this past week when you posted the clip of the Emerson episode, or was it the
I
week before?
think it was. It may have even been the week before. I don't remember. I think it was this past week. I honestly don't remember.
Yeah.
With everything that's been going on, I have
Well,
completely lost track of time. October has basically evaporated. So,
yeah, that.
yeah, yeah.
But well, on that note, we had you posted a clip from the interview we did with Ernie Emerson, and
Mhm.
there was some discourse in the comments, and we wanted to kind of briefly touch on some of our thoughts as it pertains to that.
Yeah, and it was for the most part, honestly, like so the specific segment that we're talking about that we posted was a clip where we were talking about the China stuff. It was we talked about it for several minutes, but it was a just a segment of that kind of toward the beginning when we started talking about. And if you guys haven't heard that, I would highly encourage you to go and check that out on that interview with Ernie, because that was he had some very valuable insight from somebody that's been in the business a really long time and has seen a whole lot of stuff. So highly recommend you go check that out if you haven't already seen it. But yeah, we posted that clip, and most of the feedback was really good. Just people agreeing, and basically not wanting knives made from a communist country and that kind of stuff. There's always a couple of naysayers that it doesn't matter what you do, somebody's going to be contrarian, even if it's just for the sake of being contrarian. That's the world we live in. But one point that was brought up, which was definitely a sidetrack from the main discussion, but it brought up something that I feel like would be good for us to talk about now, which was a YouTube reviewer hopped on there and was basically saying that most of the big U.S. companies are not up with the times as far as using social media, and specifically YouTube reviewers, since that's what this person was. That basically, that's a big problem, and that's why the Chinese are beating us, and whatever, and that we were going to lose to them if we didn't get up to date and start using YouTube influencers and stuff like that. So that opened up a whole discussion that, like I said, kind of neither here nor there with the main point of the issues with the with the market, with the Chinese stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's a
Yeah,
point, but it's definitely like a side point. But it does bring up a good topic, though, that something actually I've been planning on us talking about for a while, which is the use of social media, and particularly other people, influencers, whatever you want to call it, in whatever form, whether it's YouTube reviews or just people posting on Instagram or whatever. So yeah, and just in general, why don't you start? Because I probably got I've been, after reading that post and stuff, I had tons of ammunition to get me kind of fired up about it. So I'll let you lead
yeah.
off what you think, kind of just in general, about the state of, like, using influencers, reviewers, that kind of stuff, like just kind of in general, what you think about that whole situation.
I'm a bit behind the times as a person in my personality, and so I kind of don't really care for a lot of the modern marketing techniques and modern things that happen. But there are influencers and reviewers and things like that. I mean, especially when I was, before I was making knives and like just collecting knives and trying to learn more about knives, I definitely watched a lot of knife reviews and, content and stuff like that. So, I mean, I think they can be valuable. I think it's about how you know, use that information beyond that point. Because at the end of the day, it's just one person giving their opinion. But to get back sort of on the topic of, you know, uh, Chinese knife companies providing reviewers either at a discounted rate or a just free sample and using influencers to sort of do their bidding. Well, I think, it sort of does circle back around to the discussion we were having with Ernie about everything being subsidized. I mean, if you or I give a free knife to an influencer, it's a lot more of a hit to our bank account and to especially custom guys. That's a very large
Yeah.
ask to get a free custom knife that's weeks worth of someone's labor. But
Yeah.
a lot of the production sort of companies, and I don't know if he was talking about like in terms of USA production, full production type people like Benchmade or
Yeah, I think mostly I think that's mostly where it was aimed at. I mean, obviously, even people our size, at
yeah,
McNees knives, because, um, but yeah, I think more so. I'm sure they would love to get custom guys using their stuff, using their services too. But I think the discussion was probably aimed more at production stuff or whatever. So,
yeah,
um,
and,
yeah, you bring up a good point about the subsidies, because like it's it's way easier to do all of your marketing and
yeah,
everything if I had the government paying me to essentially to market and stuff. Well, I'd be throwing money at here you get you get a knife, you get a knife, you get a knife. I'd go full Oprah Winfrey on them,
yeah, and that was
but
part of our discussion with Ernie too. Was you walk into Blade Show, and a couple years prior you had never heard of this knife company, but 3-4 years down the line, they have banners hanging everywhere. They've sponsored every single thing they could sponsor. Their name is on every single badge, every single ticket, every single anything that's in there. And like he said, and like that stuff ain't cheap. All that
no,
marketing, branding for shows and stuff like that. I mean, my table is right beside the Wii booth, and they give away free beer on Saturdays
mm,
because
yeah,
who cares? You know, we ain't got to foot the bill.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
um,
right.
so you're
You got a sugar daddy handing you money giving you money to hand out, essentially, then makes marketing pretty easy.
yeah. I mean, you know, uh, you're fighting with a billionaire basically, like in a lot of ways
Yeah,
of it, who can outspend who. Well, in most respects, I mean, they're going to be able to do that because the individual companies themselves don't necessarily have to have that capital. They don't have to have that marketing power individually. um, so
right.
I get it. I understand his commentary or his points that he brought up in terms of maybe U.S. companies should utilize those things more and sort of be in the in crowd and all that. But I still don't know if that's necessarily the root problem or the root. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to dollars, cents, and pounds sterling.
Yeah, I mean, sure, it's there may be somewhat of a valid point that maybe, and I don't know, like I'll talk about kind of what we do and our take on it in a minute. But as far as the other companies in general, I don't know what all the other companies do as far as like sending out knives to reviewers and stuff like that. But from the way he talked, it's not very common for U.S. companies to do it. Even though he did end up saying that they did work with some U.S. companies, so like I mean, some do it obviously, but yeah, it still comes down to when you have money. Number one, when you have a lot higher, let's just say this, for all the different reasons combined, those companies have a lot higher profit margin that any of the American companies do that are making knives in the U.S. Right? I think that's a pretty reasonable thing to say, and I think pretty much anybody, even people that are for those Chinese companies or whatever, are like, are okay with them and love them and buy their products. I think it's pretty plain to see that those companies have a higher profit margin than the U.S. made companies. I mean, we all know that U.S. made companies have to pay higher wages. They pay more for basically everything. So I think that most people that have any knowledge of how it works would agree that there's higher profit margins for those companies. Well, if you have higher profit margins, obviously you've got more money that you can spend on marketing and stuff. And I know this because I've made way less money than we make right now, and I did not have as much money to put toward marketing. It definitely helps. We can afford to do things now that we could not do 5 years ago. So
me as a one-man operation custom maker, between paying myself, belts, steel, all the things that go into it, and the marketing budget, that there's not a whole lot of the marketing budget that comes out of each knife, because it's just
right,
things have to go other places.
Right. So that means that you have to learn to be more creative, is what that is, says to me. And you have to do more of your marketing like yourself. You have to find ways to get in front of people, that kind of stuff. So the counterpoint that I made, well, let me back up. So for starters, we do use, I guess, for lack of a better term, influencers out there. Like at this point, like we do, like there's people that, that we utilize, we send stuff to. We've actually even just recently started an ambassador program. We've only got a couple of people signed up so far, because that's all I've wanted so far. But I'll go more into that when I kind of give our take on how we look at this kind of marketing. But so I definitely am not arguing that you shouldn't use that. I mean, the bottom line is that in reality, yes, people pay attention to reviewers. People pay attention to people that have, more followers and stuff on the different platforms. Like, we live in an attention society. Like, attention is currency, essentially. And the people that can get attention and can get eyes on stuff, that makes them valuable to, a certain extent. You know what I mean? Like, depending on how many eyes they can get on it. It's no different than, everybody knows that companies have paid, tons of money for Super Bowl commercial, halftime commercials and stuff. And it's because that event brings eyes to the TV, where these people know people are going to see their commercials. And so they're willing to pay a bunch of money. That made that time slot for that commercial valuable, because there's a program on that's going to draw people to it. It's no different than what we've got now with influencers and stuff, that if you have people that are going to get eyes on their content and you want them to push your content, well, that makes them valuable. Like, that's the same concept, just a different platform than what we've all grown up with, or whatever, So, or at least people that are my age grew up with. Some of you guys have grown up with, or have grown up with the influencers and stuff being a part of everyday life. But so, in no way am I vilifying it at all. It is what it is. It's just a part of our reality. And then, there's nothing wrong with it. And I actually think it's pretty cool. Like, it allows people to, be entrepreneurial and essentially make a business, or at least a nice side hustle for some of them, out of, creating content and doing that stuff. That's they're doing this little microcosm of what TV and movies and stuff have been our whole lives. But now people are able to do something that gathers people's attention, and then they're able to cash in on that attention by essentially advertising for people. It's the same framework that we've all experienced our whole lives. So I actually think it's kind of cool that individuals can do that, and not just big, Hollywood, production companies and stuff like that. So I think it's pretty cool. That being said, not every influencer is equal.
Yes. That was something I meant
particular
to bring up
companies. Yeah. So a couple of things. Number one, even if you're like not doing anything wrong, like, different companies are going to gravitate towards different people. Different people have different styles, different stuff. And like for us, for example, like, I'm not going to choose, it's not a perfect world. So like, it's not like I'm going to be able to pick every single person that's going to help us, advertise is going to be strictly 100% somebody that never touches anything but an American made knife. I would like that, but that's not really reality. But I also don't want somebody that's, every other day is hawking the next Chinese made knife that's out there, because that just doesn't really go that well with our brand and our message, like
Yeah.
that's not, you got somebody that's promoting a bunch of Chinese stuff one day, and then the next day they're promoting our stuff. It's like, kind of weird.
Yeah.
So again, it's not a
Wishy-washy.
perfect world. Like, yeah, it's not a perfect world, and people can for sure like Chinese knives and like our knives, and everything doesn't have to be divided along the lines of, Chinese or not, or American made or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, matter of fact, a lot of people do not think along those lines that much. So that part of it is, you can't just assume because a company, if you're an influencer of some sort, reviewer, whatever, you can't assume because a particular company has not approached you, or maybe you approach them and they're not willing to work with you, does not mean that they're not using social media, they're not using influencers. They may just have not picked you to work with, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's one factor. We're not going to necessarily work with every influencer or every reviewer out there. For us, my take on it is, I'm not saying we won't work with bigger people, like bigger reviewers and stuff, but for the most part, I want to work with people that are already customers of ours, because to me, that's the most authentic thing. Like, you're sending a knife because, like, this guy was basically saying, we'll, it's a great deal. You just send us a knife, let us, basically send us a free knife. We'll do a review. And he's not wrong. Like, if you get a good reviewer that gets a lot of eyes on you and they do a good job for the price of a knife, for a production company like us, yeah, that's actually not a bad deal. But again, you got to align with that person, that influencer, and you've got to like their service too. Just like you hope they like your knife, well, the company has got to like the service that you're offering too.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's, and everybody kind of knows, you can kind of tell some of the ones that like will promote, and I'm not saying they always say good stuff. A lot of them say good and bad stuff about every single thing that they review, whether, no matter, what it is. But to me, it's way more authentic if you have somebody that's actually a customer of the brand, and they are then turning into an influencer for you, and they happen to have a following or whatever, and they're willing to promote for you. Then to me, that's way more authentic. You're going to get people see through it when it's somebody that's just hawking thing after thing after thing. They don't really have, it's just everything. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
you'll promote anything and everything that's thrown at you, versus, people that maybe aren't as big in the space, but they're more authentic. They come across as more authentic because everybody already knows, a lot of times, if they follow them already and they're seeing their stuff, they already know that they're a customer of ours. They've seen them post our knife and stuff. And so those, and honestly, people like that, just our customers posting stuff, is our biggest form of influencer marketing out there. Like, just strictly genuine, authentic, support from our customers is the biggest way that we market, period. Like, word of mouth. So,
Yeah. I mean, I get that point, and I understand, like, it's good to have like a direction, a strong defining force of, your marketing image, like what you want to portray to the public. And like I said, I agree, and I like that philosophy. But while you were talking, I just bouncing around in my head playing devil's advocate. Like, I think it could also be good to have some of the quote unquote outsider, the new to the brand, kind of show that side of it as well. Have you considered that in?
yeah. Um, I would totally agree with that, but I would say that, again, to me, if you have somebody, so for example, you'll see some people that will have, I mentioned our ambassador program thing. If I go to check somebody out, number one, if they don't already own one of our knives, then it's kind of, I've decided that's a requirement, is that they already own at least one of our knives. So, but even if I wasn't going to put that requirement out there, if I go and look on their profile and they've got links or whatever to like 3 or 4 different brands, even if they're not all knife brands, if they've got links to a bunch of different stuff that they're already, like ambassadors for, then it's probably going to be a pass, and I'm probably not going to work with them, because it starts to get, to me, it starts to get watered down when people see that, okay, this person is in this to make money. This person is in this to, this is their business, is to promote stuff. So that just doesn't come off as genuine. There's a reason that on a lot of TV commercials you see people that are, and half the time they're actors, but they want us to forget that they are. They have testimonials on there all the time. Testimonials are a very strong marketing tool, but especially if they're actually genuine. And so that's what I want. I want people that can actually do. And if it's somebody that we can introduce, I'm not saying that, you have an influencer, they don't already have, say it's somebody that's got a pretty good following or whatever, and they don't already have 2 or 3 or 4, brands that they're an ambassador for. And, we want to reach out to them and, maybe send them a knife or whatever, see if they like it. If they genuinely like it, they turn into an ambassador. Sure. That's, I don't have any problem with that. But I would prefer, and currently my take is that I want them to already be a customer, but not saying that wouldn't ever change. But because you're right, having somebody new to the brand, sometimes somebody's new to the brand can be the most excited, person out, the loudest voice out there for you. So
that's sort of what I was
can
thinking.
definitely see that. It's more,
if they're trying to, sort of suck in that demographic that is not customer, for you, if they kind of can do that, in terms of their experience and their review and their how they react to it. Just, the thoughts that bounce.
It comes down. No, you're not wrong. What it boils down to me is I'm more worried about whether or not, because every influencer, every person out there, basically, whether people consider themselves influencers or not, everybody is kind of like their own brand, right? Mm-hmm. Even if you just have a personal account out there where you show off your knives and stuff, you still, whether you're monetizing it or not, you are kind of your own brand. Like, that's just the way things are now. And so if I feel like somebody's brand is watered down and it looks like they'll just, hawk anything that comes across, any chance that they get, then I'm probably going to pass. That's what it comes down to. I want somebody that's a little more discerning, like they're not necessarily even looking to be an influencer, but they believe in the product and they're willing to talk about it. That's not to say that there's not benefit to, letting some of the big influencer people, get their hands on your stuff too. Like that's there's nothing wrong with that. I just choose to focus mostly on the stuff that I feel is the more authentic stuff, and actual customers and actual people that, whether they're already a customer or not, but that either are a customer or have the potential to be a good supporter and aren't so watered down that they're just kind of, just to be blunt about it, this is one of my responses in that post was like, I don't want somebody that's just going to whore themselves out to just any company out there that throws product at them. Yeah. Like that's not what I want, so occasionally there might be a time or a place where you just want to get something out there and get the most eyes on it possible. But for somebody that we're going to really work with closely and try to keep an ongoing relationship with and stuff, like I definitely want people that are more, exclusive. not already promoting a bunch of other stuff. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, not like purely exclusive, but just a little more, focused and, like I mentioned before, sort of on brand, on the same highway, not necessarily taking every exit and going to every gas station on the planet.
Right.
Right. Been watching a lot of football and stuff recently. Thinking about Peyton Manning is on like every other commercial and Nick Saban's on every other commercial, like a bunch of different stuff like that. Versus somebody that may just find their one thing and that's their thing. It seems to help when you're
even as big as those guys are, even as big as they are. Eventually, if they keep doing commercials for this, that, and everything, it's going to get watered down. Like the effect that will have on customers or potential customers will get watered down.
Yeah, that's sort of what I was saying. You sort of have diminishing returns every time you take on a new thing to attach yourself to, and like you were saying, sort of waters down the the influence of
consumers aren't dumb. Whether you stop and have a discussion about it or whatever, consumers aren't dumb. You know when you're being sold to. You know when somebody is like, I mean, I love Nick Saban, but I was just looking the other day. I saw another one of the commercials with him on there, and I was like, not that he didn't rake it in while he was at Bama, but like, dude is raking it in on freaking. Now I don't blame him. I do the same thing, but like, that was a thought that came like. But people and other consumers are the same way. I mean, you just you can push it to a point where you don't really you kind of stand for everything or represent a bunch of stuff, and people kind of start to see through it. And it's like, okay, that he don't use that product. They just paid him a bunch of money to say that, basically. In a lot of cases, and people are smart. They see through stuff. So. Another point that I'd like to make, go ahead before I get started down this rabbit hole.
I was going to say my last point on it is also there are so many influencers and also so many brands, like, but mainly on the point of influencers and reviewers, there's so many out there. Like, you have to, if you took every request that came in, that would be ridiculous. But also,
right.
like you said, trying to find the right fit, but also trying to find the one that actually will make an impact and actually have an audience that is, relatable to sales coming back to you and stuff like that is important. And just kind of wanted to say that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, because you got to look at it. I mean, you're as that, if you're trying to monetize, and even if you're, to be honest, like, there's some people that aren't necessarily looking for actual payment, whether it be money or even a free knife. Like, there's people that would that offer to just borrow one and send it back to you or whatever. But even those people are typically trying to work their way up to the point, like, they're trying to use that as a way to build their platform up enough that they can monetize it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it's pretty much everybody that's doing this kind of stuff is in it to monetize it at some point, whether they're actually doing it currently or whether they're trying to get to that point. That's pretty much the goal of pretty much anybody that does this, I feel like. I mean, not that they don't enjoy what they do and that kind of stuff. I mean, I enjoy making knives too, but my goal is also to run a business successfully and make enough money to pay the bills, So that's all part of it for all of us. And on that note, kind of goes with what I was about to say. So I have a couple of pet peeves with some of particularly the reviewers. Not as much like the just people that post on Instagram and stuff. If you're going to offer a service like that, then do a good job. Like, and one of my biggest pet peeves is seeing a reviewer get a knife in and then literally know almost nothing about the knife, nothing about the company. Like, it's obvious they didn't do any homework. They can't tell you, how the company started, where the stuff's made, you know what I mean? Like, they just have like almost no knowledge. It's like, did you not, like, if this is going to, if you're monetizing this, then this is, whether it's your side hustle or whatever, then this is your job. And you're not going to put any effort into it. Like, if we put that kind of effort into making the knives that they're reviewing, then they would destroy us because the knives would be pitiful because we wouldn't be putting them up. You see what I'm saying? If we put an equivalent amount of effort into our job building the knife as they do into their job reviewing the knife, then the knives would be horrible because a lot of these guys are just, they just want to depend on, hey, I'm going to flick the camera on. I've got the knife. I'm charismatic. I got a good voice. I'm going to just do this. But like, guys, like, inform the people, like, tell the ones that I want to see and want to work with, I'm not saying you've got to know every single detail about everything that we've ever done, but at least know, the general idea of who we are and what we do and what the name of the model is. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's very frustrating when people like when we interviewed Ernie, like, I did days worth of homework of, reading articles and watching videos and other interviews that he'd done and all that kind of stuff on something that's not even, we're not monetizing that. We didn't, we don't get paid anything to put these videos out, the podcast. So, like, but I wanted to know a little something about what I was doing so that I could try to do a good job of interviewing the man for his sake and for the listener's sake,
Yeah.
But it's like these people, it's honestly pretty egotistical to think that I'm just going to hop on here with no knowledge of, basically of anything to do with the company or product I'm reviewing, and I'm just going to wing it. Like that's, and maybe some people like that, but I can tell you from maybe some of the viewers are okay with that, but from somebody that's on the other end, the people that you're wanting their product to review, if they're paying attention, they're not going to like that, because I don't. That's always been a pet peeve of mine, is to see, and not everybody does that. Now, some people are very knowledgeable and some people do it right. So I'm not harping on reviewers in general. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to do a review, do the same thing that we do. Like if we're going to do an interview with somebody, like do a little bit of homework, at least enough to know, hey, this is a company based in so-and-so, they've been around since so-and-so, whatever, just whatever, something about them. Like, like I've seen people not even be able to, which I get it, that our name's a little bit tricky to pronounce for some people, but like when they're on there fumbling around and can't even pronounce the name and don't know anything about, I think it's kind of I think they do not sure if this is just a one-man shop or they got, maybe an employee, or like, what I mean? Like they don't even know if we're a custom shop or a production shop, or it's just, you're probably not getting business from me if I see a review and you're obviously not putting any homework into it and you don't know anything about, the company, the product that you're reviewing. It doesn't take much. I mean, you could literally go do 5 minutes worth of looking and do enough to make me happy. You know what I mean? Like, so
not expecting like
so you guys need to
thesis.
consider that.
Just, try to know a little something if you're going to, market yourself as a service or as a reputable person, try to be reputable, try to do a good job. And
Right.
When you first said that, it made me have a funny idea of starting a YouTube video where I reviewed knife reviewers. And that
dude, I've been saying that. Have I not told you that before? Me and Amy have been talking about that for years now.
You might have.
I seriously have thought about doing that. Yeah.
I would like to see.
We've been talking about
you would
that.
do a better job at it than me, but yeah.
It probably wouldn't make me any friends, but at least not in the reviewers. But again, like guys, I'm not bashing on reviewers. Now, some of you guys are freaking awesome. Like some of the reviewers do a great job, and even some of the reviewers that are doing what I'm talking about still do a decent job talking about the knife. But like all it takes is just a little bit of homework to be able to do that extra, so that people know a little bit more about the company, and just give them that little bit of information. I mean, that's what you're there for, is to give the people information. So just have a little bit of a working knowledge about what you're talking about, and it will make it so much better. And so, and here's one more thing, and we'll wrap this up. If you are going to reach out to a company or a maker about wanting to work with them, then be very explicit up front with what you expect and all that. I hate when somebody sends me a thing, and I'd love to get one of your knives on my channel, whatever, and they'll hem-haw around. They won't say, hey, I'm expecting to get to keep the knife. I'm expecting payment. I just want to borrow the knife. I'll send it back. Like, I hate when they leave it vague. Like, just tell me what you want up front, and if I think it's worth it, hey, we'll go for it, But like, I hate when people are like very vague, and like you keep talking to them and you can tell that they're wanting to maybe keep the knife, but they're afraid to come out and say it. Like, just if you think what you're doing is worth reaching out to somebody to try to get them to work with you, then you should have enough confidence in yourself to tell them what you're charging for that service, if anything, and what you expect. Right? Yeah. I mean, I have enough confidence in my product that I put a price tag on it and I put it up for sale, and people either buy it or they don't. So you guys do the same thing. If you're approaching a company and you're offering them a service, then just be upfront with them and tell them what you expect. And if you're flexible, just tell them that. Hey, I'm flexible. We can do this or this. But don't just say, hey, I've got, I'd love to work with you, whatever, and then leave it up to us to try to, okay, well, what do you need out of it or whatever? Because I can just tell you, if it's me, I'm not going to ask. I'm just going to pass and move on. And I imagine a lot of the other companies are probably the same way. Because
I've heard a lot of
like we
complaining on the customer side of sort of the reverse of this, of like not putting prices in for sale post or in lottery post or whatever, and be like DM for price, and people get upset about that because why?
It's annoying. Yeah, just if you think that your product is worth what you're asking for it, then there's no reason to be like shy about it. Just tell people what you want for it. What this is fair trade. This is what I want for what I'm offering you, and if we can work together, great. But if you don't if you don't tell me up front, like there's a 99.9% chance that we're not working together.
Yep.
So that's just, and I may be worse about that than some people, but I got a feeling that probably annoys most companies. I got a feeling most of them immediately write you off as soon as you don't just come out and tell them what it is that you're offering and what you expect in return. Like that's just simple, plain, normal business tactics,
Yeah.
So just common courtesy. So in summation, do not not at all bashing any of the influencer stuff. Again, we use that stuff. Some of the guys do great jobs on the reviews. We're going to continue to do stuff. Probably going to be doing even more stuff as we go forward with influencers and ambassadors and all that. But also, just because you have a YouTube channel or something doesn't mean that any company owes you to send them your product and swap you for a review or whatever. Like we also get to choose, just like you get to choose your knife and whatever. We get to choose who we want to do business with, who we want to use their service for advertising. So,
100%. And one last
it's all
note
part of it.
Like that I wanted to mention. I mean, and not blowing smoke or anything, but I mean, you guys seem to do a really good job as far as using influencers or reviewers or whatever you want to call them, ambassadors, as on your main like feed, at least on Instagram. That's what I see most. But
Right.
like especially compared to like I don't see a whole lot of that from a lot of the other American-made companies. So I mean, you may be sort of the outlier in that instance. I don't know, but just while we were on the discussion, I wanted to mention that.
And yeah, no, I appreciate that. And no, and honestly, part of that goes to my whole take on this whole thing all along when it comes to social media is being open and having a dialogue with our customers and that kind of stuff. I mean, I truly I believe that word of mouth is the most powerful thing that we can harness, and we actually truly want to hear from our customers. And like dude, it's not very rewarding. It's cool. Okay, let me say this. It is rewarding for me to design a knife, figure out how to make it, all that, us put out a finished product that's a knife that we think is cool. That in and of itself is very rewarding. However, it's much more rewarding to do that and then have other people like it and, number one, be willing to spend their money on it, but also then to tell you about it and then to tell you stories about, how they used it or what it meant to them or that they gave it to somebody as a gift or somebody gave it to them as a gift. That's the stuff that's why I get so pumped up when we go to shows and we get to talk to people in person and stuff and get all the feedback and all like that. So I want that. I want that through social media every day. I want to be interacting with people and, back and forth. I mean, they're giving to us. They're fueling my passion by telling me their story and letting me see, the knife they've got in their pocket that day is out of all the knives that's out there, and knowing they've got huge collections that our knife's the one that's in their pocket that day. Like that means a lot to me. So, it's just kind of natural that like it's part of the whole natural, just our outlook on interacting with people and being part of the community and not just sitting over here in a corner trying to sell you guys knives like that. We truly want to be in the mix with you guys. Like we want to get to know people, that kind of stuff. It's just like, I feel like stories are extremely important for a company or a brand to put out there. Your guys' stories are super important to us. That's what keeps us going. Like that's the most important part of it. So yeah, that's where all that comes from for us. So just kind of natural.
Yeah. Sweet.
But,
well, I think that was a fairly good discussion, but we seem to be running a little long. And since we're recording this in the middle of the workday, I think we both got places to be. You got any?
I need to go see about the machine that caught on fire out there in a minute.
Oh yeah.
No, I pretty much it. We, on that note, I do greatly appreciate all of you guys. Whether you actually own our knives or not, whether you're just listen to the podcast or watch us or whatever. Those of you that that do own our stuff and post it and all that, we appreciate it. We love you guys. Like that means the world to us. So please keep after it, because that truly is what keeps us going. So we're gonna We're going to keep trying to grow this podcast, so please help us to post by posting it, sharing it, liking it, subscribing, all that good stuff. Help us get this out there. The bigger we get it, I think the easier it's going to be for us to get more guests on here and that kind of stuff. So we're going to try to do that again really soon. So yeah, please help us out with that.
Yeah. And please hit us on the email with any comments, questions, or, if you still got knife stories, we're still happy to read those and do those, talk about them at knifefreakshow@gmail.com is the email. If you can send them to us there, would be greatly appreciated.
Yep. We appreciate you guys. We should be able to hopefully have another one out. Hopefully we can be back on track now and maybe not miss another week of an episode. So we appreciate you guys and hope you have a great week.
Let your freak flag fly.